Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another Bad Comic Beatdown. This is LK along with Dalton. How you doing, Dalton?
I am doing all right. I have prepared myself with some absinthe. I don't want to drink any much more than this because I don't have the sugar cubes to do it upright, and so pure absinthe is what it will be. And if I drink any more than this, I will get drunk, probably.
Well,
Because
I can safely tell you you're gonna need it because we are about to dive into another issue of Captain Marvel, aka the Yuna Yang story.
I
For
do
those who
also still have the bottle, but I'd rather not pour myself any more than that because, well, as as uh, as Anna in Van Helsing said, absinthe will indeed knock you on your ass if you're not careful.
Yep. And so, for those who have joined us on previous Bad Comic Beatdowns regarding Captain Marvel, this is the Alyssa Wong volume where she has self-inserted herself in as the good-natured, do everything, knows everything, always right thief named Yuna Yang, and really she is the main character, and Carol is the at best co-star in her own self-titled book. And if you recall, too, we've been constantly told how Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, is supposed to be one of the flagship characters of the Marvel Universe, and they continue to treat her in a manner that is the exact opposite of that. So we are
And
going
in
to
the,
dive
and
into
in this particular
episode.
issue, they're massacring my boys, hence the absinthe. They're taking out
Yeah.
Hulkling and Wiccan, and you shall not pass, god damn it.
So we are set to go. Again, thank you everybody who's joined us, who's watching this later. Please hit like, please subscribe to the channel so you get the notifications on when Bad Comic Beatdown videos and other videos pop up that you want to check out and participate in. And again, we thank everybody for their support. So here is the cover, the main cover here to Captain Marvel #6. A relatively plain sort of kind of action cover. Note here that in the legacy numbering, it's 190. So in just 10 short months, we're going to get the landmark Captain Marvel #200. I wish I was kidding, but they're going to do that. You know it. I know everybody knows it. Uh,
I hate so much how far down the artistic standards have gone because Hulkling there looked awful.
Yeah. So here we go. We've got our recap here. As I say, petty thief Alyssa Wong, Yuna Yang, was attempting to steal the Negabands from Genis Vale. Energy absorbing villain named the Omen attacked. Desperate, of course, she slapped him on her own wrist. It reactivated a bond to Captain Marvel. They've been mind linked, and so they swap places whenever they claim the bands together.
Please
They
note that's not how the Negabands work or have ever worked until this point.
add details. Omen, now joined by an ensorcelled Genis Vale, who also has a hole in the middle of his stomach, is a herald for the Undone, a cosmic energy eater. Its energy absorption powers is the ultimate snack. The Undone offered to free Yuna from the Negabands, give her power, but Yuna outsmarted the cosmic entity and stole the ring, uses to control her omens. After a brief visit where we saw Yuna's criminally connected family, two brothers that are also both very bright. Mom, who is like, yeah, this is no big deal. They retreated. We got to see Carol's home up in Maine. So, but the Undone was not to be outdone. She sent Omen and Genis Vale to hit Carol where it hurts by ambushing her loved ones. So that's where we're
It's
going to get.
almost as though you can't just shrug off a cosmic entity or something.
No. So we can see here again our writers Alyssa Wong, the art, and you will notice a certain quality in the art as we go through this book today. Rarity Coleman, I've never heard of. We should also take into account the assistant editor on this is Lindsay Kohick. The editor is Sarah Brunstad. And the person that has allowed all of this to happen is C.B. Cebulski. I will tell you for a fact that when you see the editor is Sarah Brunstad on a book, run, run, run away. So here we go. We're in the palace of the Emperor Hulkling in Kree Scroll space. For those who don't know, Hulkling here is currently the king of kind of a combined Kree Skull empire. He has his his husband, Billy here, aka Wiccan, they're being menaced and attacked by this ensorcelled, as they say, Genis Vale. And of course, he screams out, "Hey, Genis Vale!" And he says, "Hello, little brother. How's ruling the empire going? I'm here for my birthright, our father's negabands." And of course, there's little screams and shock, and then Wiccan stands up and says, "Over my dead body." And he says, "Those are our wedding rings. So forged from the scraps of Marvel's bands." So their wedding rings are part of what used to be Marvel's negabands. Dalton,
Why?
you aware of that?
I was not aware of that, and fuck all of that noise entirely.
Did
Why?
you know? Did you know that negabands, I guess, could be cut up or turned into scrap and then melted down into wedding rings?
Okay, but even if they could, they're incredibly ancient cosmic MacGuffins and artifacts. Why would you? I just I didn't actually read the wedding issue, so this is the first I'm hearing of this.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, more
most
importantly, I always got the impression, and of course, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't been an in-depth reader of Captain Marvel over the decades. Have there always been multiple sets of negabands?
not that I was aware, although Captain Marvel is slightly out of my wheelhouse, so maybe I don't know.
Okay. So here we go. Genis, boasts, "Hey, as a son, I have as much claim to them as you do." He shoots some unholy energy at him. Wiccan here, screaming and pleading, "Protect my husband, protect my husband, protect." I guess that's the way that he says the spell to
Billy, my
heal.
darling boy, you do know you are one of the most powerful magic users in this particular version of this particular universe, right? Like, you were Sorcerer Supreme for 5 minutes, although, granted, who hasn't at this point, because they have absolutely no respect for the concept of Sorcerer Supreme. But you were the Sorcerer Supreme for a hot minute, and you are the son of the Scarlet Witch, and you inherited some variant of her powers. So, why exactly are you not doing anything a warper of reality on a whim?
But as you can see, as the men are in trouble, here comes this big green hammer that comes slamming down on the back of Genis Vale and knock him to the ground. And guess who this is? You're out of line, Genis Vale. What happened to your own nega bands? And it's Lauri-Ell, the chief accuser. So for those of you who haven't been reading previous volumes of Captain Marvel, Lauri-Ell is Carol's half sister. Uh, a while back in Marvel's Wisdom, they retconned the whole thing. We wound up finding out that Carol's mom was in fact actually in a Kree warrior who fled and came to Earth and wound up marrying an Earth husband, who turned out to be not such a great guy. They retconned that too. We won't talk about that.
No.
But long story short, the Kree Empire used some of her material and basically created a test tube baby that is Lauri-Ell. And in the book they had a big fight, and then of course they all made up. And when
So,
Carol was
soap
offered,
opera in space,
oh yeah, well
basically.
when Carol was offered by Hulkling to become the accuser, she passed and said, "Well, no, you could give it to my sister instead." So there we go. So
Teddy,
she is
why did you ask Captain Marvel? I know we in the, world know that Marvel is trying to force Captain Marvel to be a thing, much like Fetch, but you in universe have no reason to think she would make a good accuser, I don't think.
Yep.
Unless I'm missing something.
Standing over the body here of Genis Vale, and of course Hulkling, Lauri-Ell, and she says, "My Emperor, are you safe? And you, court wizard?" "Thanks, Lauri-Ell." And she says, "Of course, protecting you is my duty as your chief accuser, also as your sort of family." And of course she's
Okay, what what is with that dialogue? You went from pseudo Ren Fair medieval speak to millennial speak in the space of about 5 microseconds, and it might have given me a stroke.
yeah. Well, again, this is if I were to try and explain it best, I would say it's her speaking as she normally would in a formal way, and then throwing a little bit of what she's learned from her half sister Carol.
I
So
just the whiplash. I can't. Maybe this is the first. Maybe this is
yeah,
the first opportunity to drink.
take a sip while we go through. So she throws a force field around Janice Vale. Well, she accurately says he's not acting like himself. And Hulkling goes, well, that hole in his chest, in his hands, what's happened to him? And then ideas, we see some of the eyes and the material of the Undone here that is infiltrated and ensorcelled Janice Vale.
If only there was an incredibly powerful magic user who was the Sorcerer Supreme for like 5 seconds who could do something about that ensorcelment.
Well, let's see what happens. Hold on now. I bestowed a gift upon Janice Vale, a purpose. You Marvels have such potential, channeling energy and repurposing it for yourselves, as the thing continues to speak. The Nega bands amplify that ability. My force field, as he starts to attack it. Emperor, get back! And in the right hands, he kind of rips asunder the force field. And we can see, I can feast on it forever, as the Undone there is kind of licking its hands or whatever in whatever space that they're currently in, whatever. Meanwhile, so we switch from that, we come back to Harpswell Sound, Maine. This is the home of Carol Danvers. And we see this loud boom. And
why couldn't any of the Stephen King villains have happened to Carol already, since she's in Maine? I would prefer that.
And lo and behold, Phyla-Vell. Yes, we get another Marvel sighting. This time it's Phyla-Vell, formerly the Captain Marvel of Earth 18897. And she's all cute in her little jacket and her outfit. Hi, Carol. I ran into some trouble on my way here. Got ambushed by someone with giant wings full of eyes. She was waiting for me at the moment I breached the atmosphere. Of course, we'll find out that's the Undone. And Carol there wraps an arm around her, says, looked like an angel, hit like the devil. And says, you've met her too, right? Not quite sure I would say that it looks like an angel, but okay. She says, you could say that. And of course, we realize that Carol's kind of given her the summary. Oh, I see. So that's what's happening. Your message asking us to come here was a little vague. I kept it generic in case it was intercepted. Now you know the details. And of course, here's the mind version of Yuna Yang, who's in the negative zone while Carol's hanging out in the real world. And we flip over to the negative zone, where Carol asks, how's your research into the Omen and the Undone going, Yuna? And she says, I'm still sorting through all of the material from Evan's network of info brokers. Perks of having a criminal family. How she can do that from the negative zone, I'm not really sure, but hey, let's just go with it.
How does Yuna Yang have any particularly noteworthy research skills? We've seen that she apparently can be a quote-unquote expert in stealing magical artifacts without knowing anything about magic, so what?
Well, in this case, though, we see it's not actually her research. It's her brother Evan using his network of information brokers, because they're a criminal family, and so he's the information side, she's the action person, or at least
because quasi-mafia gangster type people are totally the people you want to go to for information on mystical quasi-Lovecraftian entities and or their heralds. Not the Sorcerer Supreme and or his wife, who you've already gone to for this kind of information before, but what the fuck do I know?
Yeah,
must drink again.
Alyssa here says, hey, the good news is my brother's very thorough. The bad news is that he's very thorough. I could be here for days, but we don't have days because the Undone's already on her way and we're running out of time.
Because he wouldn't have streamed it down to, relevant details or information, would he?
No, of course not. He just
again, maybe if you had gone to Doctor Strange or Clea, this wouldn't have happened. But what do I know?
Yeah, well, as somebody who's been in the analytical game before, he just did a data dump rather than actually doing synthesizing and analyzing of the data. But whatever. So Lauri-Ell says, hey, Hulkling Wiccan aren't here yet. I thought they'd show up. And Carol laments, no, Lauri-Ell confirmed that they got the message, but that's the last they've heard from them. I haven't been able to reach them since. And that takes us back to the fight here in the Kree scroll space somewhere, wherever. He rips the hammer out of Lauri-Ell's hands, says, thanks for the universal weapon. You and Carol have already had to go with this thing. Now it's my turn. And he smacks all three of them with the universal weapon. And I think this is Hulkling. Yeah, that's in there. Stop, Janice. Something's controlling you. You have to fight it. He says, I know exactly what I'm doing. And one touch and that ring is mine. No. And Wiccan comes in to save the day, saying, be gone from here. Be gone from here. So that's
I hate the way Wiccan spells work. I always have. That's not new, but I just want it known that I really hate the way Wiccan spells work.
Yeah. Well, and of course, be gone from here translates into some kind of tentacle beast that opens up from a portal and grabs Janice Vale and sucks him through the portal.
Yeah, not very descriptive language for a very particular result there, Bill. But
Yeah. And then, of course, after he's standing there all smug, he then turns into a pile of goo and says, Teddy, are you all right? And yeah, when he touched the Star Sword, he corrupted it. He almost got my ring. Babe, it's okay. He didn't. I teleported him to a distant corner of space. That should buy us some time. So obviously we know which one's the man and which one's the woman in the relationship. But anyways, someone owes
at least this relationship has a top and bottom. That's something I can't say for most of the gay relationships in comics today.
And then, of course, he says his magic words, take us to Carol, take us to Carol. And we have a little intro here, or monologue from Carol. Crises have a tendency to bring families together or break them apart. Not even quite families like ours. And next thing you know, hey, they've all appeared in Carol's house in Maine. This wasn't the reunion I was hoping to have, but it is what we've got. Once we compared stories, it became clear the Undone was targeting all of us. Janice Vale and the Omen were getting stronger, which meant the Undone was too. Even Billy couldn't undo her magical corruption. And of course, we learned that those two are the harbingers, conduits for the energy of the Undone. The more
how and why?
Through to Earth, to me.
I'm sorry. I'm hung up on the Wiccan couldn't undo her corruption.
Yeah.
Thing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Billy, this is this is one of those you have one job moments, and I hate it.
Well, how about the fact that in none of the pages of the panels we saw was there even an attempt that he did it?
Well, that is also a problem too. We're being told that action happened off panel rather than the panels focusing on the action that would actually be at least marginally more interesting than the quibbling and socializing that happens in between panels normally.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him throw up a force field protective spell. We saw him with the tentacle monster dragging Janice Vale to outer space, and then the teleportation spell. That was it. There was no attempt or anything to say, I'm trying to pull the corruption out of him, but it's not working. I mean,
yeah, well, never mind the fact that Hulkling is one of the physically strongest characters in the Marvel Universe as well, and he didn't do any particular fighting either. Like,
yeah,
I hate this. Like, what it literally is wussification, and I can say that because I am goddamn gay of these characters, because both of these characters used to at least have a veneer of competence and capability. That's one of the things that I used to really, really love about their relationship. But apparently not anymore.
What more? You could have had that page of Wiccan attempting to try and pull the corruption out when they discover it by eliminating this entire page here. This entire page was completely useless.
Yeah, meaningless sidebar quipping, basically.
The only thing that this page was designed to do was, again, to show Yuna Yang being in charge. That's it. this whole
But
page
she's not
should have
even
been
being in
completely-
charge. She didn't, as you say, she didn't do any of the research, and the research isn't even well presented in the first frickin' place. Not to mention that they went to someone who they shouldn't have for the research that he shouldn't have been able to give them.
Yeah. So here we go. But then Carol says, that's when we, aka Yuna, realized that her strength was also a weakness. In order to stop the Undone, we had to cut off her sources of energy, no matter what. And of course, she's giving this look of, oh, this might hurt you, Carol, or who it costs us. And we cut to sometime later, obviously. Yuna's back from the negative zone, which means that Carol's in the negative zone currently.
Why is so much of this cutting literally around the action that should be the main focus of the story?
Yeah. Well, here we go. So, hey, you made it. Sorry, Yuna, I got held up by work. I still owe you coffee for saving my life. Okay, so for those who may not have been with us in one of our earlier issues of the Beatdown, this is Lenore. This is a friend of Yuna's in college, and they were sitting side by side in a class. This was when Genis or the Omen, I forget which one, kind of attacked. Lenore got kind of, buried under some rubble. Yuna helped save her. And then we got a one page where Lenore basically got tempted by the Undone and accepted a ring and, is
Blah,
basically
blah,
one
blah.
of the heralds, but she's been secretly a herald for the Undone.
Okay.
So that's where we're picking this up. Yuna saying, I'm just glad we're spending time together outside of class, Lenore. I've wanted to do this for a while.
To repeat, this is a chronic problem of modern day SJW writers. They, instead of writing the actual action that people want to see or things related to the action that people want to see, they cut around the action and instead focus on the slice of life bits that usually happen on the sidelines of these sort of ideas.
Yeah. So, and of course, Lenore says, me too, with a come hither, running her hand with the ring through her hair. And Yuna says, oh, I'll treat you. And Lenore goes, but I should be the one buying. And she says, don't worry about it. Let me do something nice for you. Okay. And she's kind of, again, fidgeting with that ring. And my Omen, do not let your fondness for this girl overcome your loyalty. She goes, I know, but it's time for you to pay back what you owe me. And Yuna quickly comes back. It's time for rose maca lattes. Oh, thank you. And of course, Yuna's all, no problem. They're my favorite thing on the menu, other than the ice cream. Should I have gotten us ice cream too? What? Trying to sound nervous, and Yuna says, oh, is something wrong? And Lenore says, oh no, you look different today. And of course, the ring is talking to Lenore, saying, where are the nega bands? What has she done? Because that's all that,
Just this once, I will give them some credit that the dating plot does have some relevance to the action, so it is at least reasonable that they would show it. It's just, it annoys me that they don't also show all of the action scenes that they keep saying are happening off screen.
Yeah.
Or
so
off
now
page, rather.
Here's Genis Vale. He's come from wherever that corner of space was. He still has the ultimate weapon from Lauri-Ell. Genis Vale, I have need of you. And here's Carol saying, you really are a glutton for punishment, huh, Genis? I'm happy to hand you your own ass until you come to your senses. That's something maybe Carol might say. The Undone notices she's not wearing the bands either. And Genis says, haha, nice try, Hulkling. You may be able to shapeshift, but you don't have Carol's powers. Without them, you're just a pale image. And of course, Carol's about to hit him.
So much.
And kaboom. He gets hit with an energy blast that knocks him back. And she quips, oh, I thought the hole was in your chest, not in your brain. Come on, Genis. Catch me if you can. And she storms off.
Okay. I'm gonna have to rant about that thing that just happened that will inevitably make me drink almost the entire rest of my absinthe when I'm done ranting.
Yes.
Hulkling is part Super Skrull and part Kree, you jackasses, and he is nominally almost as strong as the Hulk. Yeah. Stop over fetishizing Carol Danvers' powers and minimizing Hulkling's entire character, please. For the
But
love of God, God.
she's the strongest person in the Marvel universe. So how could you possibly
Yeah, but
create
he
her?
is still half Super Skrull and part like Regal Kree. So you
Yeah.
can take this like literal lampshading of essentially the gay jock archetype in superhero form and shove it somewhere, please.
Yeah, but that's if you think this is Hulkling.
Yeah, but
So
they keep saying it's Hulkling, and as a
right.
fan of both Hulkling and Wiccan, I have to hold them to the standards
Well,
that they have opened themselves up to.
I
Because
think get ready for a surprise. So the Undone says, "That's Carol, not Hulkling. What did you do with my negabands?" Falling for the trap. And Carol says, "You mean my negabands? I got tired of wearing them, so I got rid of them. Don't worry, I donated them to a good cause." And the Undone is saying, "That's impossible. Find them," as her hand. So again, it's an attempt to try and go for some like body horror, but the artist is just not the right artist to kind of do this kind of creepy.
there's no shadows, no detailing, no stylization, no atmosphere. This is worse than the average Tumblr artist, literally.
Yeah. And of course, she screams because she's not used to seeing her hand break out into a bunch of eyes. And Yuna grabs her by the head, says, "Leo, you don't look so good. Your forehead feels warm." She tries to back away. I'm fine." She just says, "Well, things have just been stressful lately. I'm getting lots of pressure from my parents." Yuna looks concerned and sympathetic and says, "I get that. Me too. When you're in college, everyone expects you to have your life figured out. I got this job offer recently, and
Oh, shut up. Please,
I want to
please
know if you
stop
think I should
talking.
take it." And lo and behold, she's holding on to the ring. And she goes, "Well, what's that?" She goes, "You don't have to pretend, Leo. It's just like the ring you always wear. The Undone offer an omen like you. It's tempting." And then we
Wait,
see
she figured it
her
out?
internal monologue, saying how spending time with Captain Marvel made me realize that I'm nothing compared to her. Even with the nega bands limiting her, she made the impossible look easy. We all know this is complete BS.
Oh, fuck. Okay,
And
first and most relevant question is how in the fuck did she figure this out? Two, goddamn the Captain Marvel. They're trying to make fetch a thing, and
fetishization,
it's never going to be a thing.
the fetishization of she's the bestest ever, and everybody looks up to her, and she's all great, and wonderful.
Again, given the characters we have in this comic, we have the offspring of a royal Kree and the goddamn Super Skrull. We have a offspring of the Scarlet Witch who was powerful enough to be the Sorcerer Supreme for a hot minute 5 seconds ago. We have like the genetic clone sister of Captain Marvel, who apparently ain't shit either, and we have all of the Vale family. I hate this. I hate
Well,
this
but
so much.
Yuna hasn't met and spent time with any of them. She's only met and spent time with Carol, so that's why she knows she's the bestest. But anyways, Carol
You met
here,
Doctor Strange
Carol,
and Clea. That should be enough to disabuse you of that notion right there, but never mind.
says, "Is that the best you've got?" And she grabs the hammer, or the ultimate weapon, as they call it. Meanwhile, we flip back to Yuna and Lenore, where Yuna is saying, "Most of the time, I was scared out of my mind and thought I was going to die. The Undone says she can give me power like that. I'd never have to be afraid again." And Yuna questions her. Lenore says, "Why did you say yes?" And Lenore says, "Well, I was dying. My whole family had been murdered. The Undone found me while I was bleeding out on the floor."
Okay, I am now struck by the question of why wasn't this series about her? Her backstory sounds much more interesting.
Well, that's always the case with these types of writers.
But
she says she offered me a second chance at life and promised she'd always keep me safe. She just needed me to look for an energy source, something that would feed her and help her like she helped me. I was just a kid. Of course I said yes.
It has taken not even a page worth of panels for me to immediately decide that I like Lenore infinitely better than Yuna and that Yuna does not deserve her. in the romantic sense or in general.
Yep. And Lenore and Yuna, sympathetic again, holding her hand, says, "I'm so sorry, Lenore." And she says, "Thanks. It's been a long time, but it's still difficult." And Yuna says, "It makes sense that the Undone chose you. You were an easy target." What? You were at your lowest point, isolated and vulnerable. You're not the first person she's done this to, and you won't be the last.
That
You're
is,
not special. Not to her.
and you're not special for figuring this out, because that is literally how these quasi-Lovecraftian devil entities tend to operate in literally every story ever.
Yeah. And of course, Lenore, shocked, reels back and says, "Well, what the hell, Yuna?" She goes, "Let me ask you something. Do you know what happens to omens when the Undone is finished with them?" I'm not surprised she left out that part. If I were a malevolent cosmic being, I probably would too, as we see Janice Vale use the ultimate weapon there to, blast Carol through a building. Yuna says, "Unfortunately for her, I did my research." Well, her brother did research, but whatever. Says, "Every time the Undone sets her sights on a world, she anoints an omen years in advance. She cultivates them until the energy she's seeking reaches its peak. Then the omen acts as a beacon. The energy they fed her becomes a path leading straight to them."
Okay, apart from she shouldn't have any means to know any of this, Yuna is an absolute bitch because she just told someone that she allegedly has romantic feelings for, yeah, that moment at which you were at your lowest, that makes you an idiot and not special. That's basically the gist of what she said there. So, yeah, Yuna, apart from being an absolutely insufferable, idiotic character that I hate, you're also terrible at this whole romantically giving a shit about people thing.
Yeah. So here we
As
see
as as Lenore said, she lost her entire family and was dying, and yet no empathy crosses your mind when you're talking to her about it.
Well, no, she's giving her that tough love that she obviously needs because,
Okay,
whatever.
but like again, this is allegedly a character that this person has romantic feelings for, which would I think necessitate some kind of sympathy and or empathy? Question mark? No.
Yeah. Well, again, this is where Alyssa Wong is impersonating what she has seen in like mystery and suspense movies, and I'm not going to say books because I have great doubt.
These people aren't literate. These people aren't literate enough to have read books. Yeah, I know.
But she's trying to recreate one of those like classic scenes where the protagonist and the antagonist are sitting across from each other, and one thinks they have the upper hand, and then no, it turns out that the protagonist actually has the upper hand, and then
okay, but here's the framing issue with that. Lenore has not as yet done anything wrong to Yuna or anyone else so far as we know. Like, she has been resisting the Undone's orders to, take her now this entire comic, and she's proved herself to be infinitely more sympathetic than Yuna while doing so. So, like, this is just Yuna being a insensitive and possibly, frankly, sociopathic bitch.
Oh, I think we pretty early established that Yuna is a sociopath.
I know, but what I'm saying is, you would think, given that this is the writer's self-insert, she would do as much as she could to make her as likable as possible. And the fact that even with all of the rose-colored glasses that the writer definitely has for this character, she couldn't even be arsed to realize, oh wait, I'm making my own self-insert character look like an absolute bitch unintentionally. What the hell?
No, because I think Alyssa Wong is very similar in mentality.
Yeah, she does. She might have the cluster B
thinking,
personality disorders.
This shows how clever and smart and witty that Yuna is, and of course it doesn't come off like that. So let's continue. Here we have Janice in the classic, arrogant, overconfident villain pose, where he's looking. Waiting for the person that he is knocked into the building to come out, and lo and behold, he gets surprised with a energy blast from behind, and then Yuna tells us when she arrives, meaning the Undone, she devours their worlds as thinks she consumes the omen's last. And Yuna here her hard eyes, saying, "There have been countless omens just like you, and she's eaten every single one of them." And of course, Lenore.
Way to be empathetic to someone you allegedly have romantic feelings for, darling. That's totally a good basis for a relationship.
Yeah, and of course, Lenore reels back, saying, "You're lying. I can't believe I came here despite the what? I'm so dizzy." And of course, Yuna says, "Oh, hey, sorry for drugging your latte, Leo. I like you and I need to keep you out of the way. Thank you, camouflage strips." And of course, she rips off the strips that we saw earlier that she uses to kind of, avoid detection on cameras. I guess they work to hide from eyes as well. And she rips it off to show that she's still wearing the nega bands. And
okay, Yuna is officially the villain here. She sociopathically ranted at someone she has romantic feelings for and then drugged her.
Yeah.
Fuck this bitch.
That's by far, though, the worst immoral actions that I've seen in a supposed hero do. And we might actually take a look at that, just a couple of pages. I'd love to get your reaction on this.
Must drink again.
So Yuna catches Lenore. Meanwhile, there's some people freaking out behind here. I'm not sure if they're freaking out because that they see somebody get drugged and passed out, or maybe there's something else going on. And Yuna says, "I have the omen. Your turn, Carol." She clangs the bands together, and Carol zips, of course, changes places, zips out. Now, I'm going to... So here's the question. Do you think that Yuna just took Lenore into the negative zone, or Lenore just fell into a chair in the cafe?
I don't know. Whichever's worse, probably.
We have seen that Yuna can take objects in and out of the negative zone.
I didn't think people counted as objects, but okay, this is news to me.
So I'm just wondering. So Carol zips out, and Hulkling is there saying, "Carol, there you are. Next time you see Tony, tell him these energy generators work like a charm." Yuna's got the omen in the negative zone with her. So obviously, then that means that she took Lenore or took the rings into the negative zone, I guess. But so Carol, or I should say Carol, saying Yuna's got the omen in the negative zone with her. Teddy housed Genis Vale, and he says File is keeping him busy. So basically what we've learned here is that the initial Carol or Captain Marvel that Genis Vale thought he was fighting was in fact Hulkling, but he used these energy generators that Tony Stark created to mimic Carol's energy powers. Okay. And then when he got smashed into the building, he went and hid, and Phyla came up from behind, dressed in her almost like Captain Marvel outfit, and is now keeping Genis Vale busy. So
okay, this is slightly less annoying than I thought it was. Good.
And then in their Captain Power moment, their powers combine and they all shoot energy beams into hitting Genis Vale. So
they shot energy into a character who has been augmented so as to absorb energy.
Yeah. And he lands, and of course he's laughing, and the Undone says, "Very clever. You think you've won, but you've already given me what I need, something precious to you." As we see the blackened skies here. And Carol,
were they not expecting this? You fed streams of energy into a character who is nominally an energy vampire. What else was going to happen? Question mark.
Well, not just that, but they gave this energy being access to the negative zone. So Carol, in her shocked look, her O face, says, "Yuna, I can't feel her anymore." And we hear the Undone going, "This fragment of the negative zone is mine. And you delivered Yuna straight into my hands," because, of course, Yuna is the most important. And this will be continued in Captain Marvel #7. Woo!
Okay, this is the very definition of a dummy plot, and I'm ashamed to have involved myself with it, because, god damn it, you fed who knows how many gigatons of cosmic energy of various different descriptions into a cosmic energy vampire. What, in all honesty, in the name of Mab or Odin, did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. And just to break your brain a little bit further, of course, here we have the Carol Zone. We have some alleged letters or emails from real readers. And so here we go. Dear Heroes Office, you have no idea how long I've been praying for more stories between the Vels since Janice Vale's return. Has it nearly been 2 years since the last of the Marvels? Anyway, it's good to know that at long last, Janice will get a chance to interact with his brother, even though he is unfortunately under mind control. The past 3 issues have shown that Alyssa Wong, as always, excels in delivering both comedy and drama.
Filth, lies, and you should be ashamed.
And I don't detect any sarcasm font. So it's been a fun read. I'm sure the coming issues will be good too. I'm also glad to see the Wiccan and Hulkling are showing up somewhat regularly in other heroes runs as guest stars. It's the least they deserve. Wouldn't it be ridiculous if 2 of your most beloved gay characters and actual space monarchs just never appear while the universe burns? Well, they're not really popular. That's why nobody cares.
Okay, but okay, I will. I
know they're your boys.
Yes, I know. But the thing is, I'm kind of glad that they never use them, because when they use them, they ruin them, as thoroughly, I think, evidenced by the events today. So, one, no, Hulkling and Wiccan are, even though I think they should be, among the most popular gay characters, especially not with more popular characters being turned gay at the drop of Jean Grey's mind control. But 2, please leave my boys alone. Let them live their happily ever after and never be mentioned again, if that means they will never be ruined like this again. They did salvage somewhat by actually showing, Hulkling doing his shapeshifting thing and so on. But still, like, I'm just sitting here going, if you're not gonna respect my characters, just don't fucking use them, please.
Well, we can see though, as this continues, this is obviously the Wiccan and Hulkling's second biggest fan, because he says, still, it's been over 3 years since they've assumed the thrones. All we get are glimpses in the empire they rule. Will they ever get to tell their own story? Will the Young Avengers ever return? Especially with the unfortunate rumor of a movie adaptation.
I think
you could tell that all Young Avengers fans just want to see our favorite team back together again. Their reunion was teased for many years, but still seems so far away. Can 2024 finally be the year of change? Oh, and happy holidays. Best Lav.
Do they ever give gay characters the ability to tell their own stories? The obvious answer is, of course, no, because they do not respect gay people or gay relationships at all, as evidenced by the fact that most gay relationships in comics can't even be asked to develop a top and bottom relationship, because they think that all gay people are Big Gay Al from South Park at best.
Yeah. So there's a couple more pieces here in these letters that I want to read, because this gives you the real perspective. If these are actual legitimate letters, these are the people that are buying these books. This is who Marvel has decided is now their core audience that they want to court.
Assuming these letters aren't faked or done on Twitter.
Yeah, so here we go. We've got this one. Captain Marvel run is so good. I fell in love with Yuna Yang immediately. Her gazing lovingly while Lenore was scolding her was so real. I'm also
mentioned?
I'm also obsessed with the dynamic between Yuna and Carol, and I really can't wait to see them continue to work together against the Omen, who's also awesome. Everything also just looks so super cool, and I love everyone's outfits. Here are some pictures of my own Chewies as thanks for this great story.
Have I mentioned filth and lies? Because I once again would like to reiterate, filth and lies.
And lastly, here's in a letter talking about various things, but the piece I wanted to focus on was Matthew from Queensland here says, my only main complaint with the series so far is how similar the body switching gimmick is to a particular moment in the Marvels film. If I can ask Alyssa a question, then I'd ask them if they knew about the body switching subplot from the movie before or after writing the scripts. And we get the response from, I'm assuming this is probably the assistant editor who's doing it. Well, actually SB, so no, this is the editor, Sarah Brunstead, or at least she's taking credit for it. And we get, so I get why you think that about the film, but hopefully you can see that homage we're paying to the original comics. Honestly, it felt like a moment of perfect synergy. Brand new fans coming in from the films will find something familiar, and our true believers will know the history behind it. After all, it was the comics that inspired the film, not the other way around. But to answer your question, we had just a tiny bit more information than your average fan, which is usually how it goes. We did our own thing with it. We've been doing this for over 80 years, and finding something fresh is always the challenge. So there you go.
Failed the challenge. The challenge has been failed with the opposite of flying colors. With subterranean colors, you have failed this.
So there you go, folks. That is Captain Marvel number 6. Now, as an extra little bonus, because we were talking about supposed heroes being portrayed as good characters that actually completely immoral. I wanted to show you a let's see, this was in Power Girl number 5, I believe. Or was that the, no, I'm sorry, no, it was Power Girl number 6. So Power Girl number 6 has the new Power Girl, Paige, or whatever her, Paige Sinclair, teaming up with a Supergirl, and there's a drug that's out there that are allowing people to go into a portal into another, almost like fantasy. And what's really bad is some of them aren't coming back after taking a hit of this drug. So they infiltrated university. They meet up with Power Girl's girlfriend slash roommate slash girlfriend Omen, who came from Teen Titans.
So Omen, no relation.
Yeah, so here they are at the university. They're posing as as characters in the nice outfit. They're going to a college party. Thank you. I research hot college girls in my area, and then here's Omen going, friends. And she goes, thank God you're finally here. I've been telepathically scanning the crowd's thoughts for Avalon, and I'm already traumatized by how much they all think about boning. So again, Omen's got telepathy, can read minds, the whole 9 yards on that. And she goes, our reason for being here is behind the third door on the left. And Supergirl, please, there's no need to knock. And Paige just kind of cracks open the lock on the door, or opens it up.
Unnecessary property damage. You literally could have just knocked there, but okay.
So here we go. Supergirl says, sorry for barging in. We were just wondering. And Omen goes, go to sleep. And of course, everybody passes out in a trance. And Supergirl says, Omen. She goes, what? It's way faster. And Supergirl scolds her for a moment, says, also ethically iffy, I'd argue. And she goes, I'll take it if he's not evil. Meanwhile, Paige is going through their stuff, saying, got it. And she goes, got the drugs. I mean, you ready to leave? And Supergirl's like, what is wrong with you? That's stealing. And she goes, stealing drugs from college kids. That doesn't count. And then Omen goes, oh, hey, 1 second. I'm telepathically gleaning everything about where they got the Avalon. Looks like a van distributed by 2 guys in matching comedic and tragic theatrical masks. The van moves locations, blah, 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 whatever. And Supergirl's like, nothing about this follows. So she's completely now, forgotten the fact that Omen has basically just invaded their minds to rip information out.
Yeah, like personal space, number 1. Random unnecessary property damage in a door we don't even know was locked, number 2. And that whole shenanigans, number 3.
Yeah. And then, of course, here we go. They talk about, hey, we've got a couple hours for you to find out. And then they're going to go to a lab to test it. And here's Omen going, you 2 crazy kids, go have fun sciencing. I'm going to telepathically implant some notions about why we don't accept drugs from strangers in vans. And then off they go.
Okay.
There we go.
Now, I must bring up something that did this plotline much, much better, as I am ever wont to do. See, in the Dresden Files, a much, much better series than all of modern Marvel and DC put together, there was a character by the name of Molly Carpenter, whose magical abilities are for quote unquote neuromancy, which means she's good at mind magic. And
Mm-hmm.
she tried to brainwashed two of her friends into not engaging with drugs anymore um, because they had a baby on the way and she didn't want anything to happen to the baby, which is at least a semi reasonable or ethical motive at least. But unlike this shenanigans, which is probably just going to sweep that whole thing under the rug, they framed this as the ethical breach it was and pointed out how dangerous getting comfortable with that kind of warping of people's brains out of joint can be. Because she was almost in the universe of Dresden Files, there's a council of wizards who basically make sure that everyone is using the laws of or using magic for ethical reasons. She almost dies because they realize that she did that, and only when Harry, the main character, stood up and vouched for her and said that he would train her and put his neck on the line with hers should she go AWOL again, was this ever considered uh, to be okay. And even then, like 90% of all of the more senior wizards were highly suspicious of both Dresden and Molly for basically the entire rest of the series because of this.
Yeah, but again, I just wanted to point out how here is yet another example of a supposed hero, acting very villainous, or certainly at a minimum immoral. I mean, you count the number of violations of personal privacy, and just how nonchalant of, okay, yeah, you guys go off, have fun. Meanwhile, I'm going to go implant suggestions to tell them that drugs are bad.
I think the argument allegedly would go if you ask these people, because it is telepathy and also non-physical, it doesn't count as coercion somehow. Same thing with Jean Grey and her
Oh, hey, Bobby,
discovery of
you're always
Bobby's
gay. Yeah,
sexuality.
yeah, but
Yeah.
we see that
Um,
this has been a long running theme in a lot of books written by these progressive SJW types of doing immoral acts and writing heroes as villains and villains as heroes.
and I know it's fiction and there's only so much actual substance you can glean about a person from the kind of stories they write, obviously. But it is somewhat telling to me that both in this case with the Omen and in the previous case, the famous case of Bobby, you're gay, it very much does seem interesting to me that these are both telepaths basically inviting themselves into people's minds without their consent that
Mm-hmm.
are doing this, because it might be indicative of the fact that if the SJWs had the power, they would prefer just to go in and rewrite people's minds on a whim. Because
Oh,
in their
100%.
minds, the world of ideas, the world of thoughts, is more important than the physical world, and also simultaneously less real than the physical world. So what does it matter if we just go in their mind and change their thoughts around? That just makes the world a better place, don't you know, Derp?
Yeah, you can almost hear the chant of the greater good in the
You
background.
can.
But yeah, but I just wanted to show you that because I remember when I flipped through that and saw it, I just shook my head. And of course, too, I mean, this is also isn't the first time in this short Power Girl run that Omen has acted, I'll say, immoral. That Leah Williams has written her like this, and it's just I
Again,
just
because
shake my head.
it's telepathic, therefore she isn't actually harming them, according to the
Yeah,
writer, apparently.
and therefore it's okay. So, all right, well, it's almost an hour. I want to thank everybody who stopped in. Undead Quinn, Rhaegar, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who watches this video after the fact. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you can understand as we go through this why. And I'll say this again: there are some ideas in the storyline for Captain Marvel that could have been a good book. But when you hire a writer of the quality or lack thereof of Alyssa Wong, this is what you get. You get you first off don't get Carol being the main lead in her own book. She is subsumed at best as a co-star. You get terrible hackneyed dialogue, and you get just just bad ideas running throughout the book. And that's what makes it disappointing. Is this again is supposed to be a flagship character. This was supposed to be Carol Danvers. Captain Marvel was supposed to be Marvel's version of Wonder Woman. I mean, that's
well, and let alone the fact that no one in the audience ever asked her to be made into the flagship character, and the editorial mandate forced that in the first place as well. Not to mention rewrote a lot of Carol's actual character and personality for the purpose of doing that. And also to answer Rhaegar's comment here, was that the right one? Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why you've seen a lot of me and a lot of LK recently is because we've been covering for E while he's moved, so that his channel doesn't go forever without content on it. He should be back to do a auction tomorrow, according to him, because he just now got to the point where he's getting settled in again. But yeah, that's the reason why it's been a lot of me and a lot of LK recently, is because we've been covering for E.
Yeah, definitely click on the bell for notifications. Make sure you check it for all. That way you get every update. Yeah, there's supposed to be an auction stream tomorrow night. England team will be back. I know I think he'll be posting some Origin videos shortly too. So he will be back. So we'll continue to do some of these Bad Comic Beatdowns as we go through, because they're fun to do, and I kind of like to point out, because again, I want to highlight it, because again, there's a classic saying of there's no such thing as bad characters, it's only bad writers. And again, Carol Danvers back in the day, especially when she was Miss Marvel, was one of my favorite characters. The Chris Claremont original volume is a great read. The Brian Reed. Or Brian Wood, sorry. Brian Wood. Or no, is it Reed? I always get the two confused. I think it is Brian Reed. Volume of Miss Marvel is fantastic. And then, after that, when they let Kelly Sue DeConnick get her grubby little paws on it and created this whole Carol Cord nonsense, and turned her into a self-insert cosplay character, that's when it all started to go downhill, and it's progressed more and more like that. And there's been multiple times where Carol has basically been written as a villain, portraying a hero in her own story. Go see the issues where she interacted with a character named Star, and the list of atrocities goes on and on. So,
and I mean, it's not just her either. We saw in issue, I believe it was 2 or 3, that Clea and Doctor Strange have been completely written out of character. This book gave us Billy and Teddy, Hulkling, Wiccan and Hulkling, told less out of character, mind you, but still very out of character. So yeah, this is literally every character now. They get warped out of character and the character's personality, because the writers don't care about continuity or in-universe logic. They only care about non-diegetic socio-political themes, therefore.
Yep. So we'll wrap it up here. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notification. If you'd like to support the channel, you can certainly drop $1 in the Ko-Fi bin there. You can see the address scrolling across kofi.com/EnglandTeen from I Love Comics. Greatly appreciated to keep the channel up and running. So LK here. Thanks again for being a part of it, Dalton. Appreciate it.
Yep.
And we will catch you another time. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Cheers, guys.